everyone. When the board was choosing who would lead the rest of our year's meetings back in January, none of us expected to have to run our meetings via live stream. I have to say, even last month, I was a bit hopeful that April's meeting would be together, face to face. Talking to a screen is so different than talking in front of all of you. And as one of our board members mentioned at our last virtual meeting, these screen meetings really are exhausting. I catch myself trying really hard to see people on their screens and so that I can hear their hearts. And then I'm distracted by trying to correct my own facial expressions. Then I tend to wonder if my kids are being too loud in the background, or if I'm cutting in and out like others, or if I cut people off by jumping into the conversation too soon. And let's not forget about that mute button that sometimes I forget to turn back off when I'm trying to talk, or I forget to turn on while I'm talking to a family member. Who knew there was so much etiquette revolving around talking to each other virtually? However, I do have to say, now that we are 7 weeks into this, I've learned a thing or two about hosting meetings, being a participant at a meeting, and being interviewed. I've also learned the many different platforms available to host different events that have been keeping us socially connected. I have always felt that I've had a knack for technology where I can pick things up once taught and can then usually teach others. This has been a little bit more challenging, but the more I'm involved and the more I watch how others host meetings, I'm starting to get the hang of it. That being said, I have a lot of anxiety over hosting the meeting live by myself and know there are still many more things I can learn. Believe it or not, this brings me into the theme for our devotion. The text that we chose for April is from 1 Peter 4, verse 10 through 11. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace. Whoever seeks, as one who seeks oracles of God. Whoever serves, as one who serves by the strength that God supplies, in order that in everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ. To him belong glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. These verses come just after Peter tells the church to keep loving one another as love covers a multitude of sins, and to show hospitality without grumbling. Now, when reading the hospitality part, I have to admit I felt some bitterness towards the inability to show hospitality with or without grumbling. How can I serve one another and cover a multitude of sins with love if I'm not even allowed to see people or have them over? Yeah, I know. I do hear myself. Even though I'm unable to host friends and extended family in my home right now, I certainly have people with me whom I have to cover with love and show hospitality without grumbling every single day. P.S. Why do they seem to eat so much more right now? But really, how fitting is it to read these verses about receiving a gift and being called to extend grace to others in a time we are living with people, our people, 24/7 right now? I know that being with each other is not new for many of us. Homeschooling our children chooses a lifestyle to be amongst each other and being at home more than we are out. But after talking with many of you, you also agree that being together for this amount of time in this controlled way is not the homeschooling lifestyle we chose. I know that here in our family, the first few weeks of quarantine was like when we first chose to homeschool and when we pulled them out of school. Our kids have been fighting a lot, or had fought a lot. We had to get used to being together all the time. Not only were all the outlets that they were used to taken away, the added stress of what was happening in the world around them and how closely they watched Matt and I for their information was really nerve-wracking and hard on our kids. However, although we still are in each other's business more than we would like, over the past couple of weeks, I've watched their relationships blossom in a new way. I'm watching the older ones, including the younger ones, more, and I'm watching the desire to be together grow as they are settling into "my siblings are my one and only playmates for the foreseeable future" normal. So back to what Peter was encouraging the church with. He is writing, after telling them not to grumble while serving, that indeed, yes, they have all received a gift. Peter tells us we have received a gift, and the gift is of God's varied grace. I'm not entirely sure what Peter means by that, but I can't help but wonder, is it because we each need different amounts of grace in different circumstances? What I love is, while Peter is calling the people to act, he ends with promises of who God is.